Welcome back to LPBW Update, your number one source for the most in-depth analysis and exclusive reports on the Roloff family. Today, we are diving into a story that is so shocking, so layered with deception and betrayal that it sounds like it was ripped from a Hollywood script. But our sources, who are closer to this situation than anyone, have confirmed that the events we are about to describe have shaken the very foundations of the Roloff dynasty. This is the story of a celebration meant to unite that was twisted into a weapon of mass humiliation. This is the story of the wedding sabotage sting. Caryn planned the ultimate public humiliation for Amy. She thought she was setting the stage for a disaster, a vow renewal so catastrophic it would become a punchline for years to come, forever tarnishing Amy and Chris's happiness in the public eye. What she didn't know is that Amy had already built a different stage, and Caryn was the only one left in the dark, the unwitting star of her own downfall. This story is absolutely explosive, and we have details you will not find anywhere else. The betrayals, the secret planning, the smoking gun evidence, it's all here. Before we pull back the curtain on this incredible counter sting, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to LPBW Update and turn on notifications because you are not going to want to miss a single second of this unfolding saga. This is the one you've been waiting for. Let's set the scene. For the past several years, a fragile truce seemed to have settled over the Roloff family. Amy and Chris were blissfully happy, settled in their new home, and enjoying their life together. Matt and Caryn were forging ahead with their own plans for the farm and their future. While the tensions of the farm sale and the family divide still simmered beneath the surface, there was a general sense of calm. It was in this environment of apparent peace that Amy and Chris began to float an idea, a grand vow renewal ceremony. Not just a small affair, but a huge celebration to mark their years together, a chance to bring all their friends and family together for a day of pure joy at Roloff Farms. They wanted to create a new positive memory on the land that held so much complicated history. It was an olive branch, a gesture of goodwill, and for a moment it seemed like it might just work. That's when Caryn Chandler made her move. According to sources who were present for the initial conversation, Caryn approached Amy with an offer that left everyone stunned. She suggested with a smile that seemed almost too bright that she and Matt wanted to help. Not just help, but take the lead on planning the event. "Let us do this for you," she allegedly said to a shocked Amy and Chris. "Consider it a gift, a way to finally, truly heal the family and show everyone that we are all on the same side now. We can handle the vendors, the logistics, the stress. You two just focus on being happy." On the surface, it was an incredible gesture. The ultimate peace offering. Matt, we're told, was beaming. He saw this as the turning point he had been hoping for, a chance for his partner and his ex-wife to finally bury the hatchet and build a genuine friendship. The Roloff kids were reportedly more skeptical. Zach and Tori, Jeremy and Audrey, they all expressed a quiet caution to Amy, but they too felt a glimmer of hope. Could this be real? Could Caryn, after all the years of subtle digs, territorial disputes, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering, truly be turning over a new leaf? But for Amy Roloff, the woman who had navigated the complex dynamics of this family for decades, the offer didn't land as a peace offering. It landed like a declaration of war. Our sources describe Amy's reaction as one of immediate, bone-deep suspicion. She smiled, she was polite, she thanked Caryn for the incredibly generous offer. But inwardly, her mind was racing. Every instinct she had honed over the years was screaming that this was a trap. This was a Trojan horse. Caryn wasn't offering to build a stage for Amy's happiness. She was offering to build a guillotine. The foundational lie of this entire saga was Caryn's supposed desire to heal the family. This was the lie she used to get inside the gates, to gain access to the most intimate details of Amy and Chris's milestone celebration, with the sole intention of destroying it from within. And Amy saw it from a mile away. Later that evening, in the privacy of their own home, Amy laid it all out for Chris. "She wants to humiliate me," Amy reportedly told him, her voice a mixture of anger and weary resignation. "She wants to be in control of my special day so she can turn it into a public disaster. The food will be late, the music will be terrible, the flowers will wilt. She'll hire vendors who will intentionally mess up, and then she'll play the innocent victim, saying she tried her best. Everyone will be watching, the cameras, our friends, our family. She wants to make me a fool on my own turf." Chris, ever the supportive and pragmatic partner, listened intently. He knew Amy's intuition was rarely wrong. He saw the cold logic in her assessment. Caryn had too much to gain from Amy's public failure. It would reframe the narrative, painting Caryn as the competent, caring matriarch of the farm and Amy as the one who couldn't even manage a party. So sitting there in their kitchen, they made a decision. They wouldn't refuse Caryn's offer. That would make Amy look petty and unwilling to accept peace. No, they would do something far more daring. They would accept. They would let Caryn plan her sabotage. And while she was busy building her house of cards, they would be secretly building a fortress. This is where Amy Roloff transforms from the family matriarch into a master event planner and counterintelligence operative. The plan she and Chris concocted was nothing short of brilliant in its audacity and precision. The very next day, the counteroffensive began. Amy called Caryn and accepted her offer with feigned enthusiasm. "Caryn, Chris and I talked it over and we would be honored to have your help. This means so much to us," she said, every word a carefully placed piece in her elaborate game. Immediately, they established two completely separate firewalled operations: Operation Decoy Farm and Operation Real Celebration. For Operation Decoy Farm, Amy and Chris set up a brand new email address, something generic like amychrisvalrenewal@gmail.com. They purchased a cheap prepaid burner phone that would be used exclusively for communication with Caryn and any vendors she recommended. This was their decoy command center. They held fake planning meetings with Caryn at the farm. Imagine the scene: Amy sitting at a table in the big house, nodding along with a notepad as Caryn suggests color schemes Amy despises or bands she would never hire. Amy would ask seemingly innocent questions. "Oh, that caterer sounds interesting, Caryn. Are you sure they can handle a big crowd?" Or, "That florist is your friend. That's so nice you're supporting a local business." Every question was designed to make Caryn feel secure, in control, and completely unsuspecting. Amy let Caryn take the lead, make the calls, and recommend a full slate of vendors. Amy knew that these weren't recommendations. They were a hand-picked team of saboteurs. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Operation Real Celebration was in full swing. Amy used a different encrypted email address and her personal phone to orchestrate the actual event. She and Chris secretly hired a high-end professional event planner from Portland, a woman known for her discretion and flawless execution. This planner was brought into the circle of trust and signed a rock-solid non-disclosure agreement. The first order of business was to find a new venue. The farm was compromised. It was the stage for the fake event. The real celebration needed to be somewhere beautiful, private, and completely off the radar. After scouting several locations under the guise of a corporate retreat for Chris's real estate agency, they found the perfect spot: a breathtaking, secluded winery in the Oregon countryside, an hour's drive from the farm. Let's call it Whispering Vines Estate. It was elegant, it was secure, And most importantly, Caryn had no idea it even existed. With the venue secured, Amy and her real planner began assembling their A-team. A renowned chef known for his farm-to-table cuisine, a celebrated photographer and videographer team, a string quartet for the ceremony, and a top-tier DJ for the reception. Every contract was signed, every deposit was paid, all through channels Caryn had no access to. Amy was meticulously building her perfect day, piece by perfect piece, while simultaneously allowing Caryn to assemble the components of a disaster. She was playing a masterful game of chess, letting Caryn think she was about to declare checkmate, not realizing she was walking into a trap set 10 moves in advance. The guest list was perhaps the most challenging part of the deception. Amy and Chris had to lie by omission to everyone they loved. They sent out save-the-date notices with the correct date, but with Roloff Farms listed as the venue. They knew this information would get back to Caryn, solidifying her belief that her plan was proceeding without a hitch. The real invitations had a crucial cryptic instruction. The final venue location will be revealed 48 hours prior to the event via a private, personal message. We appreciate your discretion and can't wait to celebrate with you. This was a huge risk. It required an immense amount of trust in their friends and family, but it was the only way to ensure the secret remained safe until the final moments. They were banking on their loved ones' loyalty over their curiosity. As the weeks ticked by, Caryn grew more and more confident. She was in her element, organizing what she believed would be Amy's downfall. She'd report back to Matt with glowing updates. The caterer is all set. Amy is going to be so surprised by the unique menu, she'd say with a wink. Or, I found a DJ who has a very memorable style. It's going to be a party nobody forgets. Matt, completely in the dark, saw only Caryn's enthusiasm and dedication. He praised her for her efforts, for being the bigger person, for finally bringing peace to the family. He had no idea he was praising the architect of a malicious plot. Caryn's plan wasn't just about simple incompetence. It wasn't just about a bad DJ or wilted flowers. She wanted true, lasting humiliation. And in her mind, that required a headline act. She needed something that would go beyond a mere party foul. She needed a smoking gun moment, a point of no return, and she decided that moment would revolve around the food. A bad meal could be dismissed as a mistake. But a meal that made people physically ill, that was a catastrophe. That was a story that would spread like wildfire. This brings us to the core piece of evidence, the document that would blow this entire conspiracy wide open. Caryn, through her decoy planning, had recommended a local caterer to Amy. Let's call him David. David was a respectable professional trying to grow his business. He was thrilled to get a high-profile gig like a Roloff event. He had several phone calls with Caryn, who was acting as the primary planner. At first, the conversations were normal. They discussed menus, dietary restrictions, and logistics. But then, Caryn's requests started to get strange. She began to subtly hint that the food should be adventurous and unforgettable. In a follow-up email, a source has revealed, she wrote, "Let's make sure the food has a real kick, something that will have people talking for days." David, the caterer, interpreted this as a request for spicy or bold flavors and adjusted his menu proposals accordingly. But Caryn rejected them. She was pushing for something else, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Feeling overconfident and with the event drawing near, Caryn decided to stop hinting and make her move directly. She sent David a text message that would become the single most destructive piece of evidence in this entire affair. We have had the contents of this text described to us by sources with direct knowledge of the investigation. The message read approximately, "Hey David, thinking more about the menu for Amy's party. Let's make it truly unforgettable. How about we create a little stomach bug surprise for the guests? Nothing too serious, just enough to have them running for the bathrooms. It would make for a hilarious story and really disrupt the stuffy atmosphere. I'll add a $5,000 cash bonus to your final payment if you can make our signature dish, a memorable one. Keep this just between us. It'll be our little secret. David the caterer read the message once. Then he read it again. He felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a client, the partner of Matt Roloff, explicitly soliciting him to intentionally poison the guests at her partner's ex-wife's vow renewal ceremony. She was asking him to commit a criminal act, to risk his reputation, his business, and the health of over 100 people, all for some sick, twisted prank. He was horrified. And he was furious. His professional ethics, his basic human decency were profoundly violated. He knew he couldn't just ignore this. But what could he do? He didn't have Amy's personal contact information, only the decoy email address, which he now suspected was being monitored by Caryn. Confronting Caryn directly was too dangerous. He needed to get this information to the victims, Amy and Chris, without tipping off the perpetrator. Thinking quickly, he remembered that Chris Marek was a well-known real estate agent in the area. His professional contact information was public. David took a screenshot of the entire text exchange with Caryn. The offer of a $5,000 cash bonus, the phrase stomach bug surprise, the instruction to keep it a secret, it was all there, in black and white. He attached the screenshot to a new text message. His hands were trembling slightly as he typed in Chris Marek's number. He wrote a simple, direct message. Mr. Marek, my name is David, the caterer for your upcoming event. I think you need to see this immediately. This is a message I received from Caryn Chandler. And he hit send. The smoking gun was now airborne. The text message landed in Chris Marek's phone on a Tuesday afternoon. He was in the middle of showing a property to a client, walking them through a beautiful kitchen with granite countertops. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it, expecting a message from his office. What he saw instead made his blood run cold. It was a screenshot of a text conversation from an unknown number. He read Caryn's words. Stomach bug, surprise. $5,000 cash bonus. Our little secret. In that instant, any remaining doubt, any tiny charitable thought that maybe this was all just a misunderstanding, evaporated. This wasn't just about social humiliation anymore. This was malicious. It was dangerous. It was, as he would later find out, a serious felony. The plan had escalated from a petty sabotage to a premeditated physical assault. He excused himself from the showing, telling his clients he had a sudden family emergency. He walked out to his car, his heart pounding with a cold, controlled fury. He called Amy immediately. "You were right," was the first thing he said, his voice tight with rage. "You were right about all of it, and it's even worse than we imagined." He forwarded her the screenshot. The silence on Amy's end of the line was heavy. She was reading the words, processing the sheer venom behind them. The woman who was co-planning her celebration of love was actively conspiring to make her friends and family sick. This was the moment the game changed. Amy and Chris's counterplan was no longer just about protecting their special day and exposing a lie. It was now about gathering evidence of a crime. They immediately contacted their attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer from Portland. They forwarded him the screenshot and explained the entire situation. The decoy event, the secret winery, Caryn's manipulative behavior, and now this undeniable proof of her criminal intent. The lawyer's advice was clear and chilling. Do not confront her. Do not change the plan. Let her think her scheme is still in motion. Let her walk right into the trap she built for you. The text message is your proof. Don't reveal that you have it until the time is right. We will handle the legal ramifications, both civil and criminal, after the event. For now, focus on your safety and on seeing this through. The final days leading up to the vow renewal were thick with an almost unbearable tension. Amy had to continue her charade, having phone calls with Caryn about the final fake arrangements. She had to listen to Caryn's cheerful, duplicitous voice, knowing that this woman had tried to orchestrate a mass food poisoning at her party. It took every ounce of Amy's strength to remain calm, to play her part, to keep the kindness in her voice as she discussed flower arrangements for a party that would never happen with a woman she now knew was capable of profound cruelty. And then the day of the event arrived, a beautiful, sunny Saturday in Oregon. The stage was set for the final act, or rather, the two stages were set. At Roloff Farms, the scene was one of surreal emptiness. A few cheap tables and chairs, sourced by one of Caryn's accomplices, were set up awkwardly in a field. A flimsy-looking archway was decorated with a few sad-looking plastic flowers. It was a perfect picture of neglect, the groundwork for a disaster. At 9 a.m., the first of Caryn's saboteurs began to arrive. David, the heroic caterer, was instructed to show up to the farm with an empty truck to play his part until the end. He pulled in and parked, watching as a DJ arrived and began setting up speakers that would never play music. And then came the florist. This is where the unexpected internal betrayal twist occurs, the moment that Caryn's carefully constructed web of lies begins to unravel from the inside, thanks to an innocent, confused pawn in her game. The florist, a woman named Brenda, was not inherently malicious. She was just a small business owner who had been hired by Caryn to provide subpar wilting flowers that would look terrible by the time the ceremony was supposed to start. Caryn had given her the address to the farm and told her to be there at 9 a.m. sharp. Brenda arrived with her van full of drooping bouquets and saw the bizarre scene. An empty field, a confused-looking caterer, a DJ setting up for a party with no guests. She tried calling Caryn's cell phone, but Caryn, in her moment of triumph, was ignoring calls, likely savoring what she believed was the impending chaos. Panicked that she was in the wrong place, Brenda remembered something Caryn had mentioned in passing. Matt Roloff is so excited for this. He's been a huge help. Thinking Matt would know the details, Brenda did a quick search for Roloff Farms business line and dialed the number. On the other end, Matt Roloff picked up. He was at his house on the farm property, getting ready for what he believed was a momentous day of family healing. He was expecting to see guests arriving any minute. "Hello, Roloff Farms," Matt answered cheerfully. "Hi, is this Matt?" Brenda's frantic voice came through the line. "My name is Brenda from Petal Perfect Florists. I'm here for the big vow renewal, but there's nobody here. I have a van full of flowers for Caryn's event. Did I get the address wrong? It's a ghost town out here." Matt was utterly confused. "Caryn's event? You mean Amy and Chris's event?" he corrected her. "And what do you mean nobody's there? The ceremony is in a few hours. The vendors should all be setting up." This is the moment the first crack appeared in Matt's reality. But it was Brenda's next innocent words that shattered it completely. "Oh, I don't know," she said, flustered. "Caryn just hired me to provide the flowers. She was very specific." She kept laughing and saying she wanted a rustic disaster theme. "I thought it was an odd choice, but she paid in cash, so I didn't ask questions. Was that supposed to be a secret?" Rustic disaster theme. The words hung in the air, echoing in Matt's mind. Suddenly, it all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Caryn's strange, manic excitement about the event, her secretive phone calls, her insistence on controlling every detail, the way she'd smile when talking about how surprised Amy would be. He wasn't a partner in a gesture of peace. He was an unwitting accessory, a shield Caryn used to hide her true intentions. He had been played. He had been made a fool of in his own home. And he realized with a sickening lurch in his stomach that the person orchestrating a massive, malicious deception wasn't a stranger, it was the woman sleeping in his bed. While Matt was reeling from this devastating revelation at the empty farm, a very different scene was unfolding an hour away at the Whispering Vines estate. The real guests, having received the secret location via text that morning, were arriving. They walked into a scene of breathtaking beauty, a gorgeous aisle lined with thousands of fresh white roses, a string quartet playing softly, waiters offering champagne and hors d'oeuvres from the real five-star caterer. And in a bridal suite overlooking the vineyard, Amy Roloff was putting the finishing touches on her look. She was calm, radiant, and in complete control. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Chris. The florist called Matt. He knows. Amy took a deep breath. The first domino had fallen. The trap was about to be sprung. It was time. The real ceremony was about to begin. The guests were seated. The music swelled. And Chris Marek, standing at the altar, pulled out his phone. A professional videographer focused a camera on him as he pressed a button. A live stream titled A Celebration of Love, Amy and Chris's Vow Renewal, went active, broadcast publicly across all their social media platforms. Thousands of fans who had been expecting to see photos from the farm later that day were suddenly watching a flawless, beautiful ceremony unfold in real time, from a location none of them recognized. The ultimate countermove was now public. Back at the farm, Caryn Chandler was just arriving, ready to survey her handiwork. She expected to see chaos. She expected to see a stressed-out Amy on the verge of tears. Instead, she saw an empty field, a few confused vendors, and her partner, Matt Roloff, standing by his truck with a look of cold fury on his face that she had never seen before. Her phone started buzzing incessantly with notifications. Friends and family were all sending her the same thing, a link to a live video of Amy and Chris smiling, happy, and celebrating their love in paradise. The stage for humiliation was set just as she had planned, but she was the one standing on it, alone, under a spotlight of her own making. The trap had been sprung, the deception was revealed, and for Caryn Chandler, the nightmare was just beginning. In the second part of this exclusive report, we will detail the explosive confrontation between Matt and Caryn, the public fallout from the live stream, and the devastating legal hammer that Amy and Chris were about to bring down. The smoking gun text messages were about to go from a private secret to public evidence in a criminal investigation that could change the lives of the Roloff family forever. Amy's counterplan was flawless, but she had to lie to all her friends and family until the last minute. Was the secrecy worth it to expose Caryn so completely? Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. The air at the farm was thick and still, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside Matt Roloff. Caryn got out of her car, her smile faltering as she took in the bizarre scene. "What's going on?" she asked, a note of confusion in her voice. "Where is everyone? Where's Amy? Don't tell me she canceled." She let out a small, nervous laugh, still not comprehending the magnitude of what was happening. Matt didn't speak. He simply turned his phone around, the screen glowing in the morning light. On it was the live feed. Amy, looking radiant in a stunning dress, holding hands with a smiling Chris, surrounded by their loved ones at a venue that was clearly not Roloff Farms. Caryn's face went white. The blood drained from it so quickly, she looked like a ghost. She stared at the screen, her mind refusing to process the images. The beautiful flowers, the happy guests, the professional videography, it was all wrong. This was the opposite of her plan. This was Amy's triumph. What is this?" she stammered, her eyes darting from the phone to Matt's face and back again. "Where are they? How did they—" "The florist called me, Caryn." Matt's voice was low, devoid of all warmth, like gravel grinding against steel. She was confused. She wanted to know why she was at an empty farm. She wanted to know why you hired her for a rustic disaster theme. He repeated the words, letting them hang in the air between them like an indictment. A rustic disaster. Was that your clever little name for it? Caryn flinched as if he'd struck her. Matt, I can explain. It was just a little joke. A prank. Amy has been so high-strung, I thought, a joke? Matt's voice rose, cracking with a fury she had never heard directed at her. You think this is a joke? You've been lying to me for months. You stood in my house, you sat at my table, you looked me in the eye, and you pretended to be helping, to be healing this family. You made me believe it. You made me a part of your disgusting little scheme. You used my home as the stage for your sick performance, and you used my love for you as your cover. The few remaining vendors, the DJ and the caterer David, were now watching the confrontation unfold, frozen in place. They knew they were witnesses to the complete implosion of a relationship. Caryn started to cry, her mind racing for an escape route, a way to spin this. No, Matt, you don't understand. Amy twisted this. She set me up. She was probably planning this all along to make me look bad. She's always been jealous of me, of us. It was the wrong thing to say. It was a desperate, transparent attempt to shift the blame. And for Matt, it was the final, unforgivable insult. It wasn't just that she had lied and schemed. It was that even now, caught red-handed, she refused to take a shred of responsibility. She was still trying to manipulate him, still trying to paint Amy as the villain. Stop it, Matt said, his voice dropping back to that terrifying cold calm. Just stop. I defended you, Caryn. I told my children, I told Amy, I told myself that you were a good person, that you had a good heart. I believed that you wanted peace. How stupid do you think I am? How stupid did you think you could make me? He shook his head, a look of profound, soul-crushing disappointment on his face. This isn't about Amy anymore. This is about you, about who you are. And I don't think I know who you are at all. His phone buzzed again, and again. It was friends, business associates, family members, all sending him the same link, all asking the same question. What is going on? The public humiliation Caryn had planned for Amy had boomeranged with breathtaking force. She was the one standing in a field of failure, exposed as a liar and a manipulator in front of the whole world. Get your things out of my house, Matt said, the words coming out as a final judgment. He didn't shout it. He said it with a quiet finality that was far more devastating. I want you off this farm. Today. Caryn's face crumpled. The manipulative bravado vanished, replaced by raw panic. Matt, please, she begged, reaching for his arm, but he pulled away as if her touch was toxic. Don't do this. We can fix this. I love you. Love? He let out a short, bitter laugh. You don't do this to someone you love. You don't build an entire fantasy of lies and then expect them to stand by you when it all comes crashing down. It's over, Caryn. He turned his back on her and began walking toward his mule, his shoulders slumped, looking like a man who had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The vendors, seeing their cue, began to pack up their equipment in silence, wanting only to escape the toxic fallout. David, the caterer who had sent the smoking gun text to Chris, caught Matt's eye for a moment. He gave a slight, somber nod, a silent acknowledgement of the truth that had been brought to light. Then he got in his truck and drove away, leaving Caryn Chandler utterly alone in the middle of the disaster she had created. Meanwhile, an hour away, the celebration at Whispering Vines Estate continued in blissful ignorance of the drama unfolding at the farm. Amy and Chris exchanged their vows, their words resonating with a depth and meaning that only they could truly understand. Amy's voice was clear and strong as she spoke to Chris. You came into my life and showed me that love doesn't have to be a battlefield. It can be a sanctuary. You taught me to trust again, not just in others, but in myself. Today, in front of everyone who truly loves us, I promise to honor that trust, to protect our sanctuary, and to always choose light over darkness, truth over deception. My life is beautiful with you in it, and I promise to spend the rest of it celebrating our perfect reality. The guests, including Amy's children, were moved by the power of her words. They didn't yet know the full story, but they understood the subtext. They could feel the weight behind her promises. Zach and Jeremy exchanged a look of dawning comprehension. They finally understood the secrecy, the last-minute location change. Their mother hadn't been acting paranoid or difficult. She had been playing defense. She had been protecting herself and her happiness with a level of strategic brilliance they had never seen from her before. A wave of pride and respect for her washed over them. She wasn't a victim. She was a queen defending her castle. The reception was a portrait of pure, unadulterated joy. The food was exquisite, the music was perfect, and the atmosphere was electric with genuine happiness. As the sun began to set over the vineyard, Chris tapped a glass for a toast. He and Amy stood together, holding hands. "First, we want to thank all of you," Chris began, his voice filled with emotion. "We want to thank you for your love, for your support, and most of all, for your trust. We know our methods for this event were unorthodox." A ripple of knowing laughter went through the crowd. We had to ask you all to take a leap of faith with us, to trust that we had a good reason for all the secrecy. And we did. There were forces at play that wanted this day to be something other than a celebration. There were people who wanted to see this moment tarnished. But as we look around now at all of your beautiful, smiling faces, we know we made the right choice. You are our true family. Your presence here in this beautiful, secret place is proof that love and integrity will always, always win. Amy then spoke, her eyes shining. "We will share more details when the time is right. But for tonight, know this. Your trust in us allowed us to turn what was meant to be a trap into a triumph. This day is perfect not in spite of the challenges, but because we overcame them together. So let's raise a glass not just to our love, but to the power of truth." As the guests cheered, the online world was in a frenzy. The live stream had ended, but the clip had gone viral within the LPW fan community. Social media was a wildfire of speculation. Hashtags like #Where's the Farm and Amy's Secret Wedding were trending. Fan forums were filled with theories, each more elaborate than the last. Why was Matt not there? Why were none of the photos from the farm? Why did Amy's kids look so relieved? Amy and Chris let the speculation swirl. They stayed off social media for the rest of the weekend, allowing the narrative to build on its own. Late Sunday evening, they made a single calculated post. It was a stunning professional photograph of them kissing in the vineyard, backlit by the setting sun. The caption was simple and powerful. "Truth and love always find a way. Thank you to our friends and family for trusting us on our journey. The best is yet to come." The post was a masterclass in public relations. It confirmed nothing but implied everything. It was graceful, confident, and utterly victorious. For Matt and Caryn, the silence was deafening. Their social media accounts, usually active with updates about the farm and their life together, went dark. The absence of any comment from them was a comment in itself. It was an admission of guilt, a confirmation that something had gone terribly, irrevocably wrong. Sources say Matt spent the weekend in a state of deep depression and rage, locking himself in his office, replaying Caryn's months of deception in his mind. Caryn, we are told, was frantically calling and texting him, alternating between tearful apologies and angry accusations, but Matt refused to respond. He was done. On Monday morning, the second, more powerful phase of Amy and Chris's counterattack began. This phase would not play out on social media, but in the sterile, unforgiving arena of the legal system. They met with their attorney in his downtown Portland office, On the polished conference room table, they laid out all the evidence. The fake contracts and emails from the decoy planning, a written, signed statement from David the caterer, detailing Caryn's attempt to bribe him into poisoning the guests, and, of course, the crown jewel of their case, the screenshot of the text message. Their lawyer, a man accustomed to high-stakes litigation, looked at the text message and let out a low whistle. "This is more than just a family dispute," he said, his tone grim. "This is a criminal conspiracy, and it is profoundly malicious. We have two courses of action, and I recommend we pursue both of them aggressively." The first course of action was civil. That very afternoon, the lawyer's firm filed a civil complaint against Caryn Chandler in the state of Oregon. The charges were twofold. First, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The suit argued that Caryn's elaborate months-long scheme was not merely a prank, but a calculated and outrageous campaign designed to cause Amy severe emotional and psychological harm by publicly humiliating her at one of the most significant moments of her life. The second charge was civil conspiracy, alleging that she had conspired with or attempted to conspire with various vendors to intentionally ruin the event and cause harm to Amy and Chris. The lawsuit sought significant monetary damages, both compensatory for the emotional distress and the cost of the decoy plan, and punitive, designed to punish Caryn for her malicious conduct and deter others from such behavior. A process server was dispatched that same day. We're told he arrived at the farm in the late afternoon. Matt, seeing the official-looking man at the gate, allowed him in. Caryn was in the guest house, frantically packing her belongings. The process server knocked on her door. When she answered, tear-streaked and exhausted, he simply handed her the thick envelope. "You've been served," he said, and walked away. The legal documents in her hand were a brutal, tangible consequence of her actions. This wasn't just a fight with Amy anymore. This was a lawsuit that could potentially ruin her financially, but that wasn't the worst of it. The second course of action recommended by the lawyer was far more serious. The text message is evidence of a crime, the lawyer had explained to Amy and Chris. She solicited a professional to commit assault with a dangerous substance, in this case, tainted food. Under Oregon law, that is, solicitation to commit assault, which is a serious felony, you have a moral and civic duty to report this to the authorities. She could have made children, elderly guests, dozens of people violently ill. This goes beyond family drama. This is a matter of public safety. Amy and Chris agreed. They knew this was a line that could not be uncrossed. This was not just about protecting their own happiness anymore. It was about ensuring Caryn was held accountable for an act that showed a shocking disregard for the health and safety of others. The next morning, their lawyer walked into the Washington County Sheriff's Office with a file containing the evidence. He met with a detective from the Violent Crimes Unit. He explained the situation, presented the sworn statement from the caterer, and handed over the screenshot of the text message. The detective read the text from Caryn. The offer of a $5,000 bonus. The phrase "stomach bug surprise." The detective's expression grew serious. This wasn't a frivolous complaint. This was credible evidence of a felony crime. A formal criminal investigation was opened into Caryn Chandler that day. Detectives were assigned to the case. They would interview David the caterer. They would subpoena phone records from Caryn and David to authenticate the text messages. They would interview other vendors Caryn had contacted. They would also need to speak with Matt Roloff. The call from the sheriff's office to Matt was the final nail in the coffin of his relationship with Caryn. He was now being asked, as a witness in a criminal investigation, to recount the events of that Saturday morning. He had to tell them about the florist's phone call. He had to tell them about Caryn's rustic disaster-themed comment. His testimony would corroborate the prosecution's narrative that Caryn acted with malicious intent. There was no more protecting her. There was no more hiding the truth. By telling the police what he knew, he was officially cutting the final tie and becoming a witness against the woman he once planned to marry. The news of the civil suit and the criminal investigation ripped through the LPBW community and was picked up by mainstream entertainment news outlets. The story was everywhere. The wedding sabotage sting was now a national headline. The smoking gun text message was described in detail in news reports, and the public reaction was one of universal shock and condemnation of Caryn's actions. Any sympathy she might have garnered, any attempt she could have made to paint herself as the victim was annihilated by the proof of her plot to poison the guests. And so, the dust settles, for now, on a battlefield that is forever changed. Amy Roloff, the protagonist who became a master planner, stands victorious. She not only saved her special day, but exposed a years-long deception in a way that was both brilliant and irrefutable. She and Chris are celebrated for their love and their cunning, their flawless execution of a plan that turned a malicious trap into a beautiful triumph. But the victory came at a cost. Amy had to operate in secrecy, lying by omission to the people she loved most, trusting that they would understand when the truth was finally revealed. She had to endure months of high-stakes stress, playing a part while her heart was in turmoil. And she has now plunged her family into a legal battle that will inevitably be long, messy, and public. Caryn Chandler is now facing a future of legal fees, public disgrace, and the very real possibility of a criminal record. Her relationship with Matt is destroyed, her reputation is in tatters, and she is an outcast from the family she tried so desperately to control. Matt Roloff is collateral damage in a war he didn't know was being fought, left to pick up the pieces of his shattered trust and his broken heart. Amy's counterplan was flawless, a master stroke of strategy that protected her happiness and delivered righteous justice. But it required a level of deception that touched everyone in her life. The question we are left with is one that cuts to the very heart of this drama. Was the secrecy worth it to expose Caryn so completely? Was this brilliant, intricate countersting the only way? Or was there another path? Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. What would you have risked to protect your own happiness? This story is far from over. We will be following every development in the civil suit and the criminal investigation against Caryn Chandler. Make sure you are subscribed to LPBW Update with notifications turned on, because the next chapter in this incredible saga is about to be written in a courtroom, and we will be here to bring you every single detail.